Anger is an emotion that we have all experienced at some point in our lives. It can arise as a response to frustration, injustice, or even pain. However, when not managed properly, anger can become a destructive force that affects our health, our relationships, and our inner peace. Did you know that anger can be the most dangerous enemy to your health, your inner peace, and at the same time an unexpected teacher that shows you how to control your emotions? In this video, you'll discover how ancient wisdom and modern psychological techniques can help you transform anger into a powerful tool for personal growth, achieving serenity and emotional strength to face challenges. Today, we will explore how to control this emotion when it presents itself in 8 different situations. We will learn to transform anger into a positive power that allows us to grow and achieve a state of balance and serenity. If you find this topic valuable and want to keep learning how to master your emotions and transform challenges into growth, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to the channel. Hit the notification bell so you won't miss any future insights on emotional strength and inner peace. Let's begin. The nature of anger. Anger, like a flame that ignites quickly, can consume the tranquility of our spirit. When anger is prolonged, it transforms into hatred. If you feel that every time you get furious you become as violent as a hurricane, I invite you to listen to this parable. One morning, a wise elder was reflecting with his grandson about life. They were talking about the internal struggle that we all face. The elder said, "In my heart live 2 wolves. One is white, full of kindness, love, and calm. It only fights when necessary to protect itself or others. The other wolf is black, violent and full of anger, ready to fight at any provocation, causing chaos and pain. That same battle occurs within you and all human beings on earth." After a moment of silence, the grandson asked, "Which of the 2 wolves will win this fight and remain in your heart?" The grandfather, with a smile, responded, "If I keep them in balance, feeding only the white wolf would make the hidden black one attack with fury at the least expected moment. If I only feed the black wolf, its destructive power will overflow when I least expect it. I must nourish both so they coexist in harmony. The black wolf has qualities I also need. It is cunning, has sharp senses, and sees in the darkness. If both are satisfied, there will be no need to fight, and I can choose which one to turn to, according to the occasion. Thus, what irritates you teaches you patience. What abandons you shows you how to be strong by yourself. What angers you invites you to forgive and be compassionate. What strips you of power teaches you to recover it. Everything you hate guides you toward unconditional love. What you fear reveals the courage hidden within you, and most importantly, what you cannot control teaches you to let go. When you feel anger, return to yourself. Embrace that emotion and take responsibility for it. Don't say or do anything in a state of fury, because any word or action under anger's dominion can ruin what you love. Remember that true strength doesn't lie in controlling others, but in controlling your own heart. Situation 1. Facing unjust criticism. Often, unjust criticism awakens in us an anger that seems uncontrollable, but how do we respond to these situations without losing inner peace? In Buddhism, it is taught that the mind is like a tranquil lake. When someone throws a stone of criticism into that lake, the natural reaction is the waves that form on the surface. These waves are like our immediate emotional response. The practice consists of observing those waves without being carried away by them. In psychological terms, this capacity for self-observation is what is known as cognitive distancing, and so, ability that allows us to see our emotions without being dominated by them. By developing this capacity, we become masters of our reactions and not slaves to them. In ancient China, a monk was unjustly accused of stealing a valuable scroll. Although he knew he was innocent, he decided not to defend himself or get angry, but to maintain his serenity and continue with his daily practice. A few days later, the real culprit was discovered and the scroll was returned. When they asked the monk why he hadn't defended himself, he responded, "Truth always comes to light. Just like clear water, you only have to wait for the mud to settle for purity to manifest." Thus the monk taught that patience and calm are more powerful than any hasty defense. For his part, Epictetus reminds us that it is not events that disturb us, but our interpretation of them. If we maintain equanimity and don't allow criticism to penetrate us like an arrow, then we become the true masters of our emotions. Just as marble resists the passage of time, our mind must resist the impact of others' words. Practical application. When someone criticizes you unjustly, instead of reacting with anger, visualize a shield that blocks those words before they reach you. Remember that criticism speaks more about the other person than about you. Focus on what you can learn from the situation and let the rest dissipate. Situation 2. Workplace disagreements. In the work environment, disagreements can unleash emotional storms that distance us from serenity. How do we transform conflict into an opportunity for growth? In Buddhism, patience is seen as one of the highest virtues. Anger, on the other hand, is like a fire that consumes everything in its path. When we face disagreements, it's important to remember that calm is like water that extinguishes that fire. From a psychological perspective, emotional regulation is fundamental for managing conflictive situations. Recognizing our emotions and regulating them allows us to act more consciously and effectively. In a Zen monastery, two monks argued about how to organize the temple garden. One wanted to follow the traditional design, while the other proposed a more innovative style. The abbot, seeing that the discussion was intensifying, invited both to spend a week caring for the garden without speaking. During that time, both worked in silence, respecting each other's ideas and finding a balance between tradition and innovation. At the end of the week, the garden flourished with a harmony that reflected the union of their perspectives. They learned that true collaboration is born when we set aside ego and work with humility and patience. In turn, Seneca teaches us that patience is the remedy for every evil. Just as a sailor navigates turbulent seas without losing course, we must navigate the waters of conflict with the compass of patience. True strength is demonstrated in calm before the storm, not in the fury of the tempest. Practical application. In situations of workplace conflict, patience is your best tool. Before responding to an email or message that angers you, breathe deeply, count to 10, and respond only when you feel calm. This time allows you to see the situation with greater clarity and make more accurate decisions. Situation 3. A friend's betrayal. A friend's betrayal can leave deep scars on the soul. How can we heal and recover our peace without being consumed by resentment? Buddhism speaks to us of the impermanence of things, including relationships. Everything changes, and clinging to an immutable idea of people only causes us suffering. Betrayal is a manifestation of change, and understanding it from compassion allows us to release the pain. From psychology, the process of grief and acceptance is key to overcoming betrayal. Recognizing and accepting the wound is the first step toward healing. In ancient India, a monk was betrayed by his best friend who spread lies about him to gain the king's favor. Instead of reacting with anger, the monk retreated to meditate in silence for several months. During that time, his inner peace and compassion toward his friend became so evident that the king, intrigued, decided to visit him. Upon hearing the complete story, the king understood the monk's magnanimity and reinstated him, while the traitorous friend was forgiven and became his disciple. Thus, this wise monk demonstrated that forgiveness and compassion can transform the darkest heart. In turn, Marcus Aurelius said that people do what they can with the knowledge and understanding they have. Betrayal, seen from this perspective, is only an act of ignorance or weakness. True power lies in not allowing others' actions to take away our inner peace. Like a mountain that remains firm before the wind, so we must remain before betrayal. Practical application. The anger that comes from betrayal can be devastating. To prevent this feeling from consuming you, practice forgiveness. It's not about justifying the betrayal, it's about freeing yourself from the weight this burden represents. By forgiving, you free yourself and allow peace to return to your life. Situation 4. Traffic impatience. Impatience in traffic can ignite the spark of anger in an instant. Is there a way to convert these moments of frustration into opportunities to practice calm? Buddhism invites us to practice mindfulness in every moment. When we're trapped in traffic, the mind tends to wander toward thoughts of frustration and anger. The practice of meditation teaches us to return to the present and find peace in what simply is. From psychology, cognitive restructuring helps us reinterpret stressful situations in a more positive and less reactive way. A Tibetan monk known for his patience lived in a monastery located high on a mountain. To reach the nearby village, he had to descend a narrow and winding path. One day, while descending with other monks, they found an angry merchant because his cart had gotten stuck on the road. The Tibetan monk calmly approached, and without saying a word began to help the merchant move the cart. After a while, the merchant calmed down and joined the effort. In the end, they managed to free the cart. The ashamed merchant asked the monk why he hadn't gotten angry. The monk smiled and responded, "Getting angry wouldn't move the cart. Patience and action would." Similarly, Seneca advises us that life is too brief to waste it on frustration. When you find yourself trapped in traffic, visualize the road as a metaphor for life itself. Sometimes we advance quickly, sometimes we stop. The key is to accept each moment as part of the journey without getting angry about what we cannot control. Practical application. Traffic can quickly trigger anger. In those moments, remember that you cannot control traffic, but you can control your reaction. Change your perspective. Take advantage of that time to listen to an audiobook, meditate, or simply enjoy the present moment. This simple practice transforms a frustrating situation into an opportunity for growth. Situation 5. Family arguments. Family discussions can be like tempests that threaten to break the strongest bonds. How can we handle these situations with love and empathy? Family is like a spiritual training ground. Within the family bosom, our skills of compassion, patience, and unconditional love are put to the test. From psychology, it's understood that family dynamics are loaded with accumulated emotions. That's why it's important to learn to communicate from a place of empathy and respect instead of reacting impulsively. In a Zen temple lived two monk brothers who constantly argued about their deceased father's inheritance. The temple master, seeing the discord, gave each one a small stone and asked them to care for it as if it were a treasure. For months, both brothers carried the stones with them, learning to value what they had instead of what they had lost. One day, the master asked them to leave the stones in the nearby river, symbolizing the liberation from attachment and resentment. From then on, the brothers understood that peace in the heart is more valuable than any material inheritance. As Epictetus said, we have 2 ears and 1 mouth to listen twice as much as we speak. In family discussions, wisdom lies in knowing when to be quiet and when to speak. True strength is demonstrated in the capacity to contain our words and choose those that build bridges, not walls. Practical application. In family arguments, anger can escalate quickly. Instead of letting yourself be carried away by emotion, practice active listening and empathetic communication. Try to understand the other's perspective before responding. By doing so, you can transform conflict into an opportunity for understanding and strengthening bonds. Situation 6. Social injustices. Faced with social injustices, it's easy to be carried away by indignation. How do we channel this anger toward constructive actions that promote change? Buddhism teaches compassion as a response to injustice. It's not about passively accepting injustices, but about acting from a place of love and not hatred. From psychology, healthy activism is based on channeling frustration toward constructive actions that promote change and not chaos. In ancient India, a group of monks found a community of peasants oppressed by a feudal lord. Instead of confronting him with violence, the monks decided to teach the peasants to better cultivate the land, organize themselves, and educate themselves. Over time, the community became self-sufficient and powerful, which made the feudal lord leave them alone. The monks demonstrated that true justice is not always achieved through confrontation, but through education and inner strength that empowers the oppressed. In this regard, Marcus Aurelius reminded us that we are part of a greater whole, an interconnected society. Faced with injustices, the true Stoic doesn't remain motionless or indifferent. Instead of yielding to blind anger, they use that energy to do good, remembering that your actions should be a reflection of virtue and reason. Like an archer who sharpens his aim before launching the arrow, direct your efforts with precision toward justice without letting anger cloud your judgment. Practical application. Anger in the face of social injustices is natural, but it's important to channel it constructively. Participate in actions that promote change, educate others, and use your voice to make a difference. Well-directed anger can become a powerful force for good. Situation 7. Personal mistakes. Sometimes we are our own worst judges, punishing ourselves for every mistake. How can we learn to be compassionate with ourselves and transform our failures into learning experiences? Buddhism teaches that self-compassion is essential for spiritual growth. We are human, and as such, we make mistakes. The key is not to identify with them, but to see them as learning opportunities. From psychology, self-compassion involves treating oneself with the same kindness and understanding you would offer to a dear friend. This helps us recover more quickly from our mistakes and avoid the self-destructive cycle of guilt and shame. In a monastery in Japan, a young monk accidentally spilled a cup of tea on a valuable manuscript. Terrified by his mistake, he thought about fleeing. The master, upon learning of it, asked him to bring the ruined manuscript and place it in the center of the meditation hall. Then he invited all the monks to reflect on their own mistakes while observing the manuscript. At the end, the master said, "A mistake is not hidden, it is accepted, learned from, and you move forward." From that day, the young man understood that his mistakes didn't define his path, but rather his capacity to learn from them. In this sense, Seneca teaches us that making mistakes is part of the human condition. A true Stoic doesn't lament endlessly over their mistakes, but accepts them as part of the learning process. Wisdom lies in getting up after each fall, like a sculptor who, after each failed blow, continues chiseling until giving shape to the perfect work. Forgive yourself and continue sculpting your character with determination. Practical application. When we get angry with ourselves for our mistakes, we damage ourselves unnecessarily. Practice self-compassion. Recognize your mistake, learn from it, and move forward without punishing yourself. Remember that the path toward personal improvement is full of ups and downs. Situation 8. Financial problems. Financial difficulties can generate great anguish and anger. How can we face these challenges with resilience without losing hope or serenity? Buddhism invites us to reflect on the impermanent nature of money and material possessions. Wealth and poverty are temporary states, and clinging to them only generates suffering. From a psychological perspective, financial resilience involves accepting the reality of our situation and working with what we have instead of lamenting what we don't have. This mentality allows us to face economic challenges with greater clarity and creativity. In feudal Japanese times, a Zen monk lived in a small temple to which many came seeking wisdom. One day, the temple was looted, and the monk was left with nothing. Instead of despairing, he went to the town square and began teaching under a tree. Soon people began donating food and materials, and in a short time the temple was rebuilt. When they asked him how he had maintained calm in the midst of adversity, he responded, "True wealth is not in what you possess, but in what you can share with others." Thus, the monk taught that resilience in the face of financial difficulties lies in generosity and faith in community. Also, Epictetus reminds us that we shouldn't worry about what is not under our control, and that includes economic fluctuations. True wealth, according to the Stoics, is virtue and inner peace. If we face financial challenges with serenity and wisdom, we will be rich in spiritual strength. Like a tree that adapts to the wind, learn to be flexible before economic adversities, staying firm in your principles and virtues. Practical application. Financial problems can generate great anger and anxiety. Instead of letting yourself be consumed by these emotions, focus on developing a concrete action plan. Seek advice, create a budget, and focus on solutions. Economic resilience is built through action, not anger. The harmful effects of anger on health. We have seen how anger manifests in different aspects of our life and how, when not controlled, it can destroy our inner peace and our relationships. However, anger not only affects our emotional environment, but also our physical and mental health. Let's see how this harmful feeling can deeply damage our well-being and why it's crucial to learn to manage it with wisdom. Physical effects. The human body is not designed to sustain anger for long periods. Every time we get angry, a cascade of stress hormones like cortisol and adrenaline is released, preparing the body for a fight or flight response. While this reaction is useful in situations of immediate danger, its constant activation can lead to serious health problems. Blood pressure rises, heart rate accelerates, and the immune system weakens, leaving us more vulnerable to diseases like hypertension, heart attacks, and strokes. Additionally, muscle tension and frequent headaches are signs that our body is suffering the aftermath of unmanaged anger. Psychological and emotional effects. Anger doesn't only affect the body, but can also be poison for the mind. This feeling can cloud our judgment, making rational decision-making difficult and feeding negative thoughts that lock us in a vicious cycle of resentment and rancor. Long-term, this burden can lead to anxiety disorders, depression, and even feelings of hopelessness and helplessness. Anger, when not properly managed, can also deteriorate our personal relationships, leading us to say or do things we later deeply regret. Social consequences. Uncontrolled anger has the power to destroy important bonds. Hurtful words and impulsive actions can leave scars on those around us, causing family conflicts, workplace problems, and social isolation. People who find themselves trapped in chronic anger often experience distancing from their loved ones, as their aggressive or irritable behavior becomes a barrier that hinders communication and empathy. By applying these strategies in your daily life, you won't just be learning concepts. You'll be embodying a new way of being. You will be cultivating a tranquil mind and a serene heart, capable of navigating the storms of life with clarity, balance, and equanimity. Remember, transformation doesn't happen overnight. It's the small, consistent steps, the moments when you choose mindfulness over reaction, peace over chaos, and understanding over judgment, that shape who you become. The power to change your reality truly lies within you. I sincerely invite you to put these teachings into practice. Observe how your life begins to shift when you apply them, not just in peaceful moments, but especially when challenges arise. Growth happens in the discomfort, and it is in those moments that these practices become most valuable. And I would love to hear from you. What insight resonated the most with you? What was your favorite part of today's video? Or perhaps, what's the first change you're planning to make starting today? Share your thoughts in the comments. Your experience might inspire someone else in this community. Let's grow together, support one another, and continue walking this path toward inner peace and wisdom. Thank you so much for staying until the end. If this content brought value to you, consider leaving a like, subscribing for more reflections like this. And of course, drop a comment sharing your favorite insight or how you plan to implement this in your life. Take care, stay mindful, and I'll see you in the next video. Until then, keep cultivating peace within. With gratitude, Daily Dharma.